fly first. Hi. You're always... Oh my goodness, you get a view of my chin. I don't even want a view of my chin. All right. Hi, everybody. Well, there's nobody right now, but there will be. In the meantime, I've decided to fart around with my microphone. There we go. There. Ah, Terry says number 2. You are the second one. I think you might be the only one in the chat right now. I don't know if Marty's still around. But yeah. 3 people in and a thumbs up. I'm excited. This is looking good. You always get the first couple minutes of my streams are me farting around with the lighting, with the fan, with my microphone, with my camera. Why is it cutting off half of my face? What is happening? I'm sorry, guys. All right. We have 5 people in now. Yay! I love how quickly you guys join. Like, some of you gotta have notifications on. I know a few of you do, and that's really awesome. Then you find out right away as soon as I, do a post or a live stream like this one or just a video. Oh, we do have Marty and Terry in the chat. And there's probably more of you guys. So hello to everybody who is just lurking. We're just going to get ready here and give everybody a chance to come in. And like we do with all my streams, I forgot to do it with my Jim Henson stream. I'll do that tonight. Put a timestamp of when the actual readings start. There, that should be better. I'm going to just, you know what? I'm going to very quickly pin my curtain. It's a blanket that my fiance just hung up for me. My curtain. Wishful thinking, though. And you know what they say about attracting and manifesting things? Say it as if you already have it. So I want curtains. I'm just going to say I have curtains. I'm going to say I have curtains until I somehow actually do have curtains. I think that's how manifestation works. I'm still learning. I'll be grateful for my curtains. In the meantime, I'm grateful for this blanket to put over my window. There we go. Keeps a little bit of the excess light out. All right. So for those of you who just joined, I see we have 8 people now. Or do we always have? I think we had 5 last time I checked. Anyways, we have 8 people now. And today we're going to be reading on cursed objects. Like well-known, supposedly haunted cursed objects. Oh, we got Ocean, we got Mater. Yes. Okay, Terry says, I think that's how manifestation works. My husband manifests better than me and doesn't even know he's doing it. Yes, yes. The people who are just chill and grateful and calm and they don't worry so much about every tiny detail. I'm learning how not to worry about every tiny detail. My fiance is very chill. He manages to just, kind of live in the present moment and not worry too much. And he seems to manifest things quite easily. So it's something I'm working on and practicing with. Because we let go of our obsession with the thing that we want. We let go of the idea of like, I want, as in like, for me, for example, I want enough clients to book my whole calendar for the month. If I keep saying I want, it keeps telling the universe I don't have. And then the universe goes, oh, Sienna says she doesn't have this, so let's keep giving her, I don't know, let's just keep giving her this feeling of not having this. Like, let's just leave her situation the same. So instead of saying I want, we say I'm grateful for and I have. I'm grateful for it. I am genuinely grateful for every single client and viewer and person that comes along on my channel. Actually, almost all of my clients have started off as viewers, and so I'm incredibly grateful. And you know what? It's just one of those things that it takes time. I have wonderful returning clients that it's like, cool. I don't worry so much about, oh, am I going to get anybody this month? Am I going to get anybody this month? I don't worry about that anymore. So now I'm just starting to learn how to let go of the worry of, am I going to have enough clients to pay this bill? Am I going to have enough clients to save up for this thing that I need? You know, I'm not going to worry about that anymore. I'm just going to have gratitude, because that seems to be the way that works. Mater says life is always saying yes to what we think and say. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes, like, we forget that very easily, I think. I forget that quite easily. Sometimes I wonder, like, why do I feel stuck? Well, because I kept thinking about how stuck I was feeling. And I kept using that label, that word, stuck. My channel is stuck at this many, or at this bunch of numbers, or, you know, my bank account is stuck at this. But no, it's not actually stuck. Nothing is actually really stuck. Sorry, I get very, I get very into this. At some point, we should have a stream just dedicated to, or a video just dedicated to talking about manifestation and, yeah, it's something I'm quite passionate about. Yeah, so you guys like that idea. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna have to take down some notes and do a little bit of homework and stuff. And you know what? They're in my living room right now, but I have these really wonderful oracle cards called Ask and It Is Given, and they're initially made by Esther and Jerry Hicks, with channelings or teachings from the spirit guide Abraham. And it gives all kinds of beautiful advice on manifesting and gives you a look at where you're at right now. And lots of wonderful affirmations to remember and think about. And so I'll have to show you guys those cards sometime. We'll do a video on manifestation. All right, I see that there are more of you. Hello, Sharon. Hello to, there was somebody else who just joined, and I think I missed ya. I hope everybody is doing well this week. It is already Tuesday. This week. Now, I don't have a channel for vlogs or anything yet, but I'm tempted to start one, because this week I started on new psych meds. And you know what? I am purposely making myself like show this like on stream, because now I am not ashamed of the fact that I needed medication. I'm actually incredibly grateful that I used to be on 150 milligrams of Effexor for the last like 4 years, or it built up to 150 milligrams for the last like, okay, maybe 3.5 years. And, it was not bad at all. It helped me a lot. Ah, my goodness, it helped me so much. And I started getting to the point where I was getting things under control mentally, emotionally, still working on things like anxiety. I'm still working on things like my self-esteem and PTSD and stuff like that. But I'm really excited, because my dosage, I'm slowly going off Effexor. The reason I wanted to go off it was because the withdrawals. Yes, Mater, you're not the only one that had terrible withdrawals. Effexor is, well, I guess like the name implies, effective. It's very good. It works very well. But yeah, I was getting to the point where I didn't know if I needed quite that high of a dosage. And the withdrawals, like if I almost never forgot to take them, because you would know. You would know if you forgot to take one, because do you call them the brain zaps, Mater? I call them the brain zaps, where you turn your head just the littlest bit, or you shift your eyes the littlest bit, and it's almost like the whole room just spins, and it makes it really hard to walk and hard to think and it makes you so dizzy. and I'd get stomach pain and stuff like that. So now I'm really, really happy because I'm on this, like, during this week I take 3 of these lower dose venlafaxines and then 1 Prozac, low dose Prozac. And then the next week it's only 2 low dose Effexors and 1 Prozac. And then the next week it's 1 of these and like 2 Prozacs. And then I go up to like 20 milligrams of Prozac. And then apparently Prozac is easier to go off of. So that's why my psychiatrist picked that one. And I was really interested because Prozac treats certain things that my Effexor actually didn't treat. Stuff that I just found really interesting. So I have a really hilarious story about this, though. There is kind of a point to this because I wanted to tell you guys a funny story. That my doctor, this old German guy, oh my Lord, he meant to say, bless him, he meant to say, now you're going to be feeling kind of wonky for the next 2 weeks on these new medications. He's like, he accidentally said, you're going to be feeling kind of wanky. I was polite. I tried not to laugh. And he's like, I mean, wonky. I've never seen an old man turn red so fast. Oh my Lord. It was the funniest thing. So of course I told my mom about it. I told some of my friends about it. They thought it was hilarious. And my one friend goes, well, you're not taking Viagra, so that shouldn't be a problem. That was my funny story about medication and my doctor. Oh, you were on Prozac as well, Mater, and you said that it was better. That makes me feel relieved because I was a little bit worried. I didn't know how Prozac was going to affect me. This is my 2nd day of this new regime of switching over the medication. So yesterday I felt so funny and spaced out and weird. It was so hard to pay attention and focus on anything. Today I'm feeling a little bit better. So I figured it's a good day to do a stream. We have 16 people in. We are 12 and a half minutes in. I think we can get started by looking at the docket for today. All right, so today's cursed object stream. The first thing we're going to look at, maybe it's hard to see my notes, maybe they're backwards, I don't know. Oh, I'm seeing so many good comments about Prozac, making it easier to think, oh, that's good. My psychiatrist actually said I have like a very mild form of ADHD, and I would have had since I was a little kid. It wasn't enough to really, really disrupt my school work or my grades or anything, but I was always told, Sienna, pay attention. I have so much trouble paying attention. I have to be drawing or coloring when someone's talking to me, or like holding something in my hands. I have to be doing something with my hands in order to retain information best. I don't know why. So maybe Prozac will help with that. Oh, that'll be really good. And if I'm just on a low dosage, maybe I don't have to worry so much about withdrawals either. Anyways, I'm actually really glad I had mentioned all that to you guys because I got some really helpful advice from you. And like I said, I just want to normalize to people, like, it's okay if you need extra help. Mentally, emotionally, whatever. And there was a hilarious story about my doctor saying I would feel wanky for 2 weeks. All right. Cursed objects. You guys are, yeah, now you guys are just talking about that's hilarious. He turned red so fast. Huh. The first thing on our list is the Busby chair from the inn, or the pub that it was in had been renamed the Busby Stoop Inn, but I don't remember what it was called during the 1700s when this really became relevant. So I'm going to read my notes about, here's my understanding of the Busby chair. It is a supposedly haunted chair that was cursed by a guy named Thomas Busby. Now, Thomas Busby and his father-in-law got in a big fight regarding their counterfeiting business. I mean, already, these sound like a couple of real stand-up dudes. They got in a fight. Busby murdered his father-in-law. Now, apparently, it was about their business. I've read other stories. Some thought it had to do with, like, the Busby's wife or something like that. Or, anyways, Daniel Audie, that is the father-in-law. So Busby murdered Daniel Audie in a fight about either the counterfeiting business or Audie's daughter / Busby's wife or love interest. I'm not really clear on that part. Now, some say that he had a favorite chair or a chair he preferred in a certain inn that he would regularly visit. One story says that after the murder, he was sitting in that chair at the pub getting drunk when the authorities came in and arrested him. And on his way out, he cursed that chair he was sitting in and said that anyone who sits in it would die. And so, okay, I don't know, there's not much recorded about like people sitting in the chair and dying maybe shortly after that, but some say that during World War II, actually locals in this area would claim during World War II, Canadian airmen from the base nearby, now I think this was in, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be in England, or was in England or something. Airmen from the base nearby would visit the pub, and apparently anyone who sat on Busby's chair would not come home from bombing missions over Europe. They would die or go missing in action or something like that. They would never come home. And there were also deaths linked to the chair in the 1970s. Now, I don't know specifically the stories, but in 1978, people were like, okay, that's enough. Enough of this haunted bullshit chair. The chair, I think, was sent to a museum. I can't remember what the museum is called, and I think it starts with a T. Something. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. Anyways, they mounted the chair to the ceiling. Hung it from the ceiling. As my arm gestures up at the ceiling, as if this illustrates my point any better, so that nobody else could sit on the chair. They did not want to be responsible for any other hauntings or deaths that somebody might be like, hey, it's your fault because of this chair, right? They're like, no, we're not dealing with that. We don't want to risk it, so let's mount it from the museum. I can't remember what the museum is called. I keep wanting to say Talisker, but that's a kind of whiskey. Somebody in the chat knows what this museum is called. So what I want to know is, was Busby's chair actually haunted? Was there a connection really between the chair and the deaths? And don't worry, you guys, I have here all my protective crystals. You can see them. Lots of like black tourmaline, shungite, hematite. This really sparkly one, I don't know what it is. Pyrite? I don't know. I got this one when I was little, but I just use it as a protective stone. I also have the owl. I've named him Marty. So I have Marty the owl. I have Onyx, my cat. She's very protective. And I just know that we're all surrounded by protective energy. None of these cursed objects, none of the things on this list, they're not going to harm us. We're going to be fine. Okay, I feel like I should have put that out there actually, first of all. But I've done it now. So we're protected. We're fine. We're just observers. So Thomas Busby's chair, was it really cursed? Was there actually a connection between the chair and the deaths of the airmen and the other deaths seemingly related to it? Thirsk Museum, that's what it is, Thirsk. In the Thirsk Museum. And I don't know why I wanted to call it Talisker. I think it was because a T, an S, and a K are together. I think that was why. That, and maybe I really want to listen to Cabin Pressure, British sitcom, radio sitcom, and one character really likes his Talisker. All right. The Busby chair, is it really cursed, or what was going on with that chair? Energy attached to the chair. Now I'm getting a mental image of these airmen from World War II, and I was hearing from Spirit that some of the ones who didn't sit on the haunted chair still didn't come home. I'm seeing that, yes, like, not like necessarily yes, it's cursed, but yes, that Thomas Busby actually did try to curse the chair. Transition on his way out, on his way to, it was either prison or execution or whatever, on his way to where he was going after he was arrested. The bottom of the deck here, I do have the Magician. I actually have so many aces here. And like the Magician, like I think his intent was to try and curse the chair. That was his intent. But then I was hearing like airmen who didn't sit on that chair, some of them still didn't come home. Some of them still died in battle. Okay, what am I picking up, Spirit? What is happening here? Well, okay, there was such excitement and such, the word I got was hubbub over this haunted chair over the years, that I think some people, I'm not going to say they wanted to make it real, but some people happened to maybe lose a loved one after that person spent time in that pub, possibly in that chair. I'm hearing that the chair mostly stayed in the same spot, but that sometimes it was kind of shuffled around the room or added to a table where it was needed. There were, over the decades, the centuries, there were people who didn't necessarily believe in the haunted chair, right? So I do pick up that there were people who did sit in the chair and eat and drink, but nothing happened to them. Because it makes for a good story. You know, this person, they were at this pub, they sat in this chair, and then 2 weeks later they died because they had a heart attack. Well, maybe the heart attack was related to something else. Like Spirit's just showing me this for an example. Maybe the heart attack was related to something else and was actually not the responsibility, or was not because of the chair. But it makes a good story. They want to make that connection. They want to sort of continue that legend. But Busby did, I'm going to put all these cards back in the deck. Busby did intend on cursing the chair. So what was the energy of that chair like? Or what is the energy of that chair like? Somebody in the comments just said, oh, Naomi says, by the way, I'm English. We love our ghost stories. But I have to ask, why didn't they just burn the chair? That's a really good question. So I want to know, they didn't burn the chair, so what's the energy of the chair? You'd think that the energy maybe of the chair, has it stayed the same? Has it always been cursed? Has it been like cursed and then, not really cursed, and then no, now it's cursed? Or what? What's the energy of that chair? It brings in a lot of, it brings in money. Or it brought in a lot of money to that pub because it was just notorious for the pub with the haunted chair. So, I mean, that money is an energy. That's true. Bringing it brought in a lot of money because there's that notoriety, and now it's in the museum. You know, my understanding is that you do have to pay to get into the museum. Sometimes you do, or you make a donation to go view the museum. There's this energy of it, this sounds weird, but it fitting in with all the other chairs. It was just an ordinary chair. It had the energy of the person who sat in it. I'm picking up, this is just like kind of like any chair. And, you know, some people knew the legend and were scared and stayed away from it. And some people didn't care about the legend, or they didn't know the legend. They sat in it, they ate, they drank, they were fine. So I don't know, Spirit's just using this really weird sense of humor, like, well, all in all, as far as chairs go, it was a pretty good chair. It did what it was supposed to do. It held people up. It is hundreds of years old and still exists. Why didn't they just burn the chair if it was supposedly haunted? You'd think that maybe shortly after Busby had cursed it, you'd think they'd have just burned it after connecting deaths to it. Why didn't they just burn it? I think I know why, but let's see what cards got to say. Well, okay, all right. I thought maybe it had to do with the notoriety and bringing in customers, therefore bringing in money. Maybe that was part of it, but actually, I feel like people thought about, they considered that, but they didn't know what to do. They didn't know really what to do about the chair. They were afraid of some consequences if they were to burn it or destroy it. I have this mental image of somebody was afraid to burn it because the smoke. They were worried that the smoke, like, you know, it would spread over the town or whatever and like curse the entire town. They didn't want that. They were afraid that would happen. They also, now this is fast forwarding a little bit now into the future, some decades, centuries, whatever, it sort of became a historical item. They didn't want to get rid of a piece of history. They didn't really want to, they didn't want to abandon, there's something about, they just didn't want to abandon a part of their town's history. And then, of course, I'm hearing the word lucrative. I'm not really sure what that means, but to be honest, but something about lucrative business. So was there a connection between the chair and the deaths? Even in the 1970s? Maybe a very loose connection. Somebody happened to sit there and then, like, I don't know. Yeah, just like a very loose connection because people associated the chair. They almost, and sometimes like with losing like a friend or a loved one or whatever, they wanted something to blame it on. Now, there was a crossroads, it's now a roundabout, from what I understand, and that's supposedly haunted by Busby's spirit. So I want to know, is that true? Or what, if not, what is Busby's soul doing now? Is that location still haunted? That now roundabout? Or what is Busby's soul doing now? For a while, maybe like shortly during Busby's time, there was a strong residual energy in that area. And it was really heavy and it was really dark. Nowadays, I'm seeing with this card, it's almost like it's like fueling a fire. When no one's really like paying attention to it, maybe the energy is just not, I don't know, like that energy is just not very strong. And then a lot of people start to pay attention to it, or a bunch of tourists like go to that area or something like that. And it's almost like they're adding fuel to this fire, making this, like creating this energy of something being haunted. With the star card, I don't know why I'm seeing it with the star and not something like temperance. Usually temperance is my card of healing. But what I was seeing with the star card was like something being scrubbed clean. And I was seeing like a brush over an image of this like roundabout. And it's like it's been actually scrubbed clean. This residual energy, the original Busby's like initial like energy has kind of dissipated, but people are just sort of, somebody in the comments said, so they are manifesting ghosts, and that's kind of the impression I was getting. It may not be Busby's energy, but they're manifesting some energy. There are spirits that are kind of in a lower astral realm, and they would like that notoriety and that attention. So I wouldn't be surprised if a spirit like that who wasn't Busby just was like, oh, somebody wants a ghost? Well, I'm a ghost here. Or something. So now what is Thomas Busby's soul doing now? He dealt with the consequences of that lifetime. He dealt with the consequences of that lifetime. There was a lot of healing work he had to do, a lot of lessons he had to learn, but he was able to move forward. I'm seeing he's had a few incarnations since then. I'm hearing cleaned himself up. Something about just him cleaning himself up. I think this is why maybe that residual energy in that like crossroads / roundabout area, and maybe the residual energy of that chair, maybe that's why it's kind of being spiritually scrubbed clean, because maybe as Busby's soul progressed and learned and healed and started making better choices in future lifetimes, that negative energy just started to dissipate. That's something I'm seeing right now. He's doing okay in spirit realm. I don't know if he's currently incarnated. I'm hearing long since come and gone, come and gone, come and gone. Like, he's been here back on Earth a few times, a few different lifetimes. He doesn't associate. The soul, like his higher self, like no longer really associates him with Busby from the 1700s. Excuse me. But now there's this feeling of him or his soul having a solid grasp on life on Earth. I feel like Thomas Busby might have been one, like an earlier incarnation or something. Like his soul has become a lot wiser and a lot more mature. So now in lifetimes going forward, he makes better choices. So that's good. I actually like knowing that. That was the Busby chair. Mater says their fear attracts low vibrations, and I think you're right. There is a lower astral realm. I don't necessarily believe in hell per se, not necessarily the way other people tend to believe in it, and not necessarily the way it's portrayed in media like TV shows, books, the Bible, but that there are spirits in a lower astral realm, and they maybe still have attachments to things like validation and attention, and playing on people's fears. Maybe they feel like it gives them energy. Some treat it perhaps like a game or a prank. Some spirits. But I'm not sure it's Busby's energy that haunts the place, because Busby has since like moved on, and I'm hearing like 3 times over the phrase 3 times over, moved on. So I like that Busby's soul is just on a learning and growing path, and that he's made better choices in different lifetimes since then. But I don't necessarily pick up the chair like being cursed or haunted. But a lot of people do in that area, tourists and stuff, seem to attract some kind of lower density or lower vibrational energy. And they can attract some kind of spirits or some kind of haunting. It might not be Busby, because he has since moved on. Okay, so what do I have on second thing? Woo! Little Bastard. That is the name of James Dean's Porsche 550 Spider. Little Bastard. Very fancy car. He got it. Now, was he filming Rebel Without a Cause? I think something like that. Around that time, he got that car. His buddy Alec Guinness said something about, you're going to be dead in a week in that thing. Predicted, pretty much, that James Dean would die in that car. Sure enough, that is exactly what happened. Like, not long after Alec Guinness said that, James Dean died in a crash, or whatever, in that car. So then, people who either bought or stole the car, or parts from the car, were seriously injured. For example, the person who actually sold James Dean the car in the first place decided to buy back the body of the car, and somewhere in that process, a mechanic was very seriously injured. I don't know if like the body like fell on him or something happened, and a mechanic working on the body of the car was hurt really, really bad. And then there's a thief that tried to steal the car, and he had like cut his arm open on the steering wheel, or part of the steering wheel or something like that. So, and there were other people who had bought parts from the car and just had like just bad luck with their vehicle, or were hurt, or had otherwise crashed. There's a lot of stories about this Little Bastard car. So is the car. Was it cursed? Is it cursed? I don't even know where the car is anymore, or any of the parts. If it's still like mostly together, if it was dismantled and parts dispersed. I have no idea what happened to Little Bastard, but we're gonna take a look. Was it cursed? The energy surrounding the car. I don't know. And we'll get a better sense of this. We'll get a better feel for this as we go along. First thing I was hearing from Spirit, though, was like, it was too fast. It was too fast. And I don't know if it was like a custom built vehicle, if it was the only one of its kind, or if it was, I'm picking up it was like specifically modded. And it may not have been like regulation modifications made to it, which could have made it very unsafe. There's something about this Hermit. This car was kind of one of a kind. It was very unique in that sense. There may have been other Porsche 550 Spiders, but there was something about it just being really unique. And I pick up that there's some, I hear the word aftermarket. I don't know what that means. Oh, Terry, you sent me a super chat. Thank you so much for that. I just saw that now, so thank you for your support. Again, I don't really know what aftermarket means, but that word came in. This vehicle was modified, and it may not have been like given an official okay, you know, if that makes sense. It was too fast. Hearing something about that. And then there's something here about some kind of authority either dismissing it or it not being brought to the attention of some kind of, I don't know, some kind of authority, somebody who regulates like vehicles and how safe they are and inspecting them and stuff like that. Something else I'm getting, it's like, sure, it was really fun to ride in. And it was probably crazy fun for him to drive because I have the Sun card, I have the Ace of Cups, there's excitement, there's like joy, there's this like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like this energy. I'm hearing, woohoo, like screaming, like fun, like he was ripping down the road in this thing, like just having a blast. Oh, Desert Dawn says, aftermarket is the term used when parts are made that can be used to replace the car manufacturer's original parts or modify the original car. Okay, so yeah, there's something like that happened with Little Bastard. Like there's some kind of special modification. Now here's something. Inexperience. There's something about James Dean being, I don't know if it was because he was too young or just inexperienced. I don't know what he was like as a driver for like a normal car, but there's something about he was not experienced enough to handle that kind of speed. Like this was better suited to somebody that was experienced in racing. This was basically like a racing car. I guess that's kind of the energy I'm feeling here. And he just wasn't experienced enough. There's something here like he just didn't have the timing down for like handling it, like shifting the gears. He just, yeah, inexperienced for how fast he wanted to go in it. Whoop. Yeah, too fast. And then he made his exit from life. Too fast. Now, okay, now what about, so that's kind of like what happened with him, but what about people who, I'm going to put these back in the deck, people who bought/stole parts from the car that had a lot of misfortune afterwards? What was that all about? What was that all about? You know what? Let's be more specific. Okay. What about the guy that tried buying back the body of the car and then that mechanic was hurt? Did that have to do with Little Bastard being cursed? What was that all about? Spiritually, energetically, that situation. Or was it just an accident that ended up with the mechanic getting hurt? What happened? Yeah, something about an accident. The person I'm picking up, they wanted to buy back the body of the car. There's something about repairing it, reselling it. Repairing it here with the magician. What else am I picking up? There's repairing it, and then there's like something that he's trying to keep a secret, like secretly fix something or secretly quickly replace something before somebody notices. And in the rush to get that worked on, here's the worker, the mechanic, and I asked, like, was it an accident? There's like some, in the rush to do this, I don't know if something wasn't secured properly or something just wasn't done properly and the mechanic got hurt. And then, of course, like that word got out about that. Well, and that was the little bastard that did that to, you know, like, oh, that's cursed. So what about the thief? I don't feel bad for the thief. He tried to steal the car and then he got hurt. I mean, don't steal cars. I don't know. But he wouldn't have gotten hurt if he didn't try to steal the car. But what about the thief? Was that a cursed thing? Oh my God, Spirit's saying, no, it wasn't cursed. He was just an idiot. There's something about in his haste to get out of there, like to get out of there in his haste. He's something like he wasn't paying attention and yeah, he snagged. I'm seeing the image of a torn sleeve. He snagged his arm on something. He was just kind of being an idiot. And in his haste to get out, snagged his shirt or his sleeve on something and then he got his arm cut. What was the energy of that vehicle? Let's just ask it point blank. Cursed, because I'm not picking up that, you know, the mechanic, like, getting hurt, like it wasn't because the car was cursed, or the guy that tried to steal the car and cut his arm open, like, I still don't pick up that was cursed. Was it cursed? Now, actually, Spirit is saying, think logically about this with King of Swords. Think logically about this, okay? Okay, so that's great, Spirit. You're telling me to think logically. So how do we do this? Here's, well, the sun. I'm actually seeing, like, this is like James Dean as, like, the sun. I don't know, this is just a young guy. I mean, it's a baby on the card, but this is just, you know, he died as a very young man. Seeing him, this, like, bright, shining star on Earth. It's not the star card, but, you know, like, this bright, like, individual has everything ahead of him, and all of a sudden, heartbreak, tragedy. Think logically about this. There's something about people were just trying to get through this. Sorry, my window is open to let some air flow through, but my neighbor has a motorbike. So I don't know if you heard that. But there's like people trying to get through this, passing as best they could. Now, actually, spiritually, there is some kind of connection. What kind of connection? To the vehicle? Or no, some kind of like an intuition. And I think this brings us back to Alec Guinness. Am I correct? I am correct. Friend, or he kind of saw James Dean as like a, maybe, because I think they had an age difference, but saw James Dean as like maybe this like little brother type. That could be why I'm getting Six of Cups. But I feel like this was like their friendship. They kind of saw each other as like big brother, little brother. There was an intuition, spiritual connection. So did Alec Guinness just, he said like, and I think to him, he meant it just as like a one-off, you know, that car looks so fine. You're going to be dead in a week in that thing. Like did he know that was going to happen? Did he kind of predict something? Or some people wonder if he cursed the vehicle just by saying that. Did he curse the vehicle accidentally by saying, you know, you'll be dead in a week in that thing? Or did he just pick up on something that was inevitable? Most times when something like that happens, it's because you picked up on something inevitable. Okay, here's the speed of the vehicle. He saw. Okay, let's do a card for, you know, did he accidentally curse the vehicle? Or did he just see something that was inevitable? Spirit saying he did not need to word it that way. He saw how fast the car was and he wanted to look out for his buddy. Like, hey, I don't know if this is safe. And he could have just, maybe he did, also say something like, I really think you should be careful with this thing. But when he worded it like, you'll be dead in a week in that thing, I think he did pick up on something that was just going to happen. Everybody has certain exit points. I do pick up. Some people have it like, this is the time, like their soul has it like planned out in the contract. Okay, you do this, 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 this in life, and then inevitable at this point you finish that incarnation, you die, you come back. There's some people that it's like, okay, you do this and this at this age, here's an exit point. You might, die and come, cross over. If not, here's a few more decades of your life. Here's another exit point. It just depends on what on your soul's contract. And now with him, he had exit points. He had another, I don't remember how old he was when he died, but like James Dean, but I know that he had another exit point for age, like in his 50s, and another exit point for like in his 70s. But for some reason, yeah, I don't know. Alec Guinness just kind of, without knowing, just picked up on one of James Dean's exit points in life. He was only 24. Oh my Lord. I'm 25 now, and I thought he was like looked so much more grown and so much older than 24. Handsome man though. It was just a very unfortunate way of wording that prediction. Dave says, I live in that area. People are still driving fast and dying on that curve. Yeah, so it's not, Little Bastard wasn't necessarily cursed. Alec Guinness did not curse the vehicle by saying, you'll be dead in a week in that thing. He just picked up on, without realizing it, picked up on one of James Dean's exit points from this earth. And unfortunately, because of now the choices that James Dean would have made, which would be to go fast, and maybe he was trying to be careful, maybe he wasn't, maybe, something on the card malfunctioned, but that was that exit point and he died. And that was that intuition. I pick up now, like with Alec Guinness, that he felt he might have kept it to himself. He felt very guilty afterwards, and thought like I'm picking up like he wondered if he should have just kept his mouth shut. But now there's this, I'm picking up where, of course, Alec Guinness died. He crossed over. They meet each other, handshake, and they're like, "It's great to see you." There's this understanding of that's not your fault. This is just what happened. You didn't do anything to cause my death. I feel like that's sort of an exchange between those two. So, not necessarily cursed, but something wasn't done properly. Something just wasn't, I don't know, something on that car was modified and it just wasn't very safe. Dean wasn't necessarily experienced enough to handle such a fast vehicle from what I'm picking up here, that it was maybe more suitable for somebody who was into racing. And that Alec Guinness just happened to pick up on that exit point. So I don't think Little Bastard is necessarily cursed. And with, again, like people like trying to buy the parts and like I'd mentioned, there are probably so many more examples I didn't look at. But that there was a lot of human error involved. Like something just wasn't done properly. I don't know. Not necessarily cursed vehicle though. Just a very unfortunate story. Robin says we choose our exit points. He may have been paralyzed if he still stayed. And yeah, you never know. You never know what could have happened. Just hopefully his death was really quick and that there was no suffering or no prolonged fear or anything like that. Just hopefully it was just quick and easy. And he's kind of coming in from spirit, James Dean. It's like his higher self is coming in and just saying, no, don't worry. I don't remember. He's saying he doesn't remember what it was like. He just remembers now. He just is showing me like a mangled car, just watching it from the outside. He just remembers driving and suddenly he's out of the body viewing a mangled car. Or like the accident scene. So that's a nice little bonus. He just popped in, popped out. All right, and so I think the next one, the third thing on our list is the Terracotta Army. So the Terracotta Army, very ancient. I think they were buried with, they say it was China's first emperor? I don't know, a very important, very important emperor though, to the people at that time. The Terracotta Army found in 1974 in China, in like a little farming village. If I'm correct, the farmers actually found it. Now, unfortunately, the farmers were given no compensation, no reward, no money. Their homes were demolished. They had to move somewhere else. They could barely afford to live. This huge collection of terracotta statues of ancient soldiers, though, buried with an emperor to protect him in the afterlife. They're saying 210 to 209 BC. Anyways, this really like 2,000-year-old site was basically turned into a tourist location. Like I said, these farmers, their homes were demolished. Pretty much their livelihoods were demolished. Farming was their livelihood, right? No compensation, no extra pay, nothing from the government. But the government and a lot of business people made hella money on this thing. And many of these villagers, it's really sad, or like the family, I think, of the people who found it, some of them died young or middle-aged. Like I said, like very just in poverty, just sad, and they struggled. And so what I wanted to know was, is that site cursed? There's maybe a legend that the villagers got cursed because they unearthed these soldiers that were supposed to protect this emperor in the afterlife. Is that the reason? Or is it just the harmful energy? Is it just curse, quotes, of the corruption and greed of the government and the businessmen? Or the business people? So let's just see. And I wish I remembered the names of the villagers who found the terracotta statues initially. Because they deserve recognition. I'm sorry, I can't remember what their names are. Or, to be honest, how to pronounce them. And I wouldn't want to, accidentally be really rude and say somebody's name wrong really badly. So is the site cursed, or is there just a harmful energy attached to it because of the corruption and greed of the government and business people? What's going on there? Okay, right away there's the struggle, there's the suffering of the villagers. Oh, no, this is upsetting. The gravesite, or like the tomb of that emperor itself, not cursed. What is cursed? Ugh. I'm sorry, there's some person in leadership position, some authorities saying, because you unearthed it, you're the one who struck it with your shovel, you're the one who found this and unearthed it, that's why you're struggling now, that's why you're suffering now. Well, we're off the hook because we only turned the place into a tourist location. You're the one who's cursed because you're the one who was digging with their shovel and found it and unearthed it. So it's kind of like a victim blaming mindset here. That's disgusting. That's why I was upset by that. It's just this victim blaming mindset. People in the village suffered. I know a couple of them had killed themselves because for various reasons. I don't know. But I do remember reading that. And yet other people, Yang Shifa and 8 other villagers found it. Thank you for reminding me of the name. Yet everybody else gets to enjoy this now UNESCO World Heritage Site. But there's this victim blaming. These officials or whoever it was saying, well, it was your fault. So no, it was not cursed. There's just, these villagers were victims of corruption and greed. Was there any kind of spiritual energy that surrounded the Terracotta Army? I can't imagine the amount of effort that went in to creating all of those. There's so many, huge collection of them. Is there a spiritual energy attached? The devotion of those who carved the statues. That's something I'm hearing. The devotion of those who carved the statues, that stuck around. I'm hearing the word imbued with energy, and I have here like protection, or I'm hearing protection. These soldiers are supposed to be, the point of them was to protect the emperor into the afterlife. And so the people who carved these statues had this on their minds when they were creating it. I'm hearing imbued with their energy, like there was some kind of blessing or some kind of ceremony or something that they did. So and the star here, that was their emperor, their star. There's like a positive energy imbued because there's something here about the people who carved these had an admiration for the emperor and they wanted to do right by him one last time. Like when it came to now like blessing all these statues. I'm sure they started working on the statues. They probably started working on it like way before he died, but there's just this like when they're finishing up and they're blessing these and sort of giving them the instruction to go protect him. It was done with, I feel like that was done with positive intent. And so that's why there's kind of positive residual energy around these statues. So it wasn't the statues, and it wasn't the fact that they were uncovered by these poor farmers. I'm picking up from Spirit that emperor's soul couldn't care less after crossing over, and it took that emperor a while to, I'm hearing, release the attachments, and I'm seeing all these different threads eventually being snip, 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 attaching him to this life on Earth and his title as the emperor and that grandeur and that all that. Once he sort of just rejoined love and light and remembered that he was love and light and that was more important, he really couldn't care less about those poor farmers unearthing the statues. So that wasn't the problem. It wasn't cursed at all. It was just, it was corruption and greed of the business people and the government. And victim blaming is easier than admitting that you've done something wrong, or victim blaming is just easier than helping the person who needs help. So I just want to know, is there going to be any kind, like, for some of those farmers that like suffered, some of them have since died, is there any kind of spiritual compensation for these farmers, these villagers who just found this wonderful, amazing thing and then just got shafted? Is there any kind of spiritual compensation? Aw, I'm actually hearing something about you've done the Emperor a great favor. Now, that Emperor, like I was saying, he really couldn't care about what like happened with the area around the tomb. Now, some of you guys are saying the tomb is stayed sealed to preserve the artifacts that, right, but just the uncovering of all the protective statues, like he doesn't really seem to care about that. But I'm hearing something about how, like, I'm hearing you've served the Emperor well and you've done the Emperor a great favor. Now, these farmers, now a couple of the ones who have since died, they received extra spiritual help with crossing over. They received a lot of help and support crossing over. Judgment, they were just shown, this is not like real, not them being judged, but they're being shown the truth of the situation, which was, by uncovering these statues, it's almost like you brought the world's attention back on the history, the culture. You brought attention back to this Emperor. Because now the world is aware. And they're thinking about this Emperor again. And that's why I was hearing, like, there's great transformation, and like, you've served the Emperor well. You have done him a favor. There's great transformation upon death. From suffering to rest. From struggle to relief. From pain to release. They're surrounded by loving people in the spiritual realm. And I pick up that there's one man in particular that he had died, and that he was greeted by like these spirits of like these royal, I don't know what they would have been called then. I'm calling them royal guards. They would have guarded the Emperor, and they would have like been with him, like bodyguards basically. They were, this person, I don't know who, but it was a man who died middle-aged, crossed over, had help, extra help from spirit, and then was greeted by this first Emperor's like bodyguards, and they're the ones saying, you have done so well. You have done him a favor. You have served him well. There's past life connections too with the people who lived in this little farming village in the 70s when this stuff was found. Past life connection between them and that first Emperor. So they may have been subjects or something like that of his during those ancient days. And what about the rest of the people who are living? Is there going to be any kind of karmic compensation? Anything? Because that is so unfair. They're just rewards. They're coming. I don't know if all of it will happen on Earth during this life. Not all of it. Some, I think, maybe. There's more recognition and more, people are giving more credit, I think, and tourists, because there are some people who, they work in the gift shop, and they maybe like sign autographs sometimes, because it's like, oh wow, you're one of the people that like found this. tourists and stuff in the future are going to give these individuals so much more credit. And just the validation. And then here's that well, I guess transformation, transition, that's the word I'm looking for, into spirit. They will receive their just rewards, especially in spirit. But it just depends on the choices people are making now, too, on Earth. I just like that there's going to be a lot more tourists in the future. I'm seeing this in the future, too. At least for as long as these original individuals are going to be around. Like, hey, you deserve way more credit for this. Like, you know, we're proud of you for this discovery you found, and, you know, this is your victory. It's not your government's victory. This is your personal. You found this. You're the reason that this is even here. So they're going to be receiving more validation in the future. But no, the terracotta statues, the army, not cursed. So far, none of these things on this list have actually been cursed. Which brings us to the last thing on our list, and that is Annabelle. The original Annabelle, haunted doll. Well, there have been a lot of haunted dolls through history. I shouldn't say Annabelle's the original. Robert the doll is far older, but it was a toss-up between him and Annabelle. But I feel like more people are familiar with the story of Annabelle the doll. Raggedy Ann doll, a student nurse, I can't remember what her name was given the doll in 1970. She claimed that the doll behaved really weirdly, and I think, if I remember correctly, like the doll would be sitting in one spot when she left for school, and then or work or whatever, and she'd come home, the doll would be in another spot, and she and her roommate would have been gone all day. Nobody would have been in the house. And just finding the doll just in weird places around the house. If I remember correctly, like sometimes she would blame the doll like for breaking things or for objects going missing. Apparently she claimed that the doll was inhabited by a spirit. Apparently a psychic medium had told the student nurse that this doll was inhabited by a spirit of a little child named Annabelle. So the student and her roommate tried to be respectful to the doll, to the little girl's spirit, but they just became really, really scared of this doll. And it just, from what I had read, they kind of reported that it just had this, like, maybe they couldn't even quite put their finger on why. Because, like, okay, yeah, it's just a doll, but they were just so scared of it. Anyways, the doll was sent to Ed and Lorraine Warren, and those people are fascinating. I'm going to have to do a reading, an entire thing dedicated just to them. The doll was sent to Ed and Lorraine Warren, and it ended up in their like paranormal occult museum. They kind of, I don't know how they decide this, if something is like haunted or possessed or not, but they figured that, yep, the doll was possessed. And so it's like locked up in this cabinet in a museum with a sign saying, "Positively do not open." So was Annabelle the doll possessed? Did it actually inhabit the spirit of a little child? Now I'm hearing right away from Spirit that Annabelle the child was real. And that the doll was a source of comfort to her during a time of sickness. Something I'm picking up. So right away, there's a very strong, energetic, emotional attachment to this doll from this little girl. Is the doll, was it possessed? Was it haunted? What was going on? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, poltergeist, that's kind of like the manifestation of a lot of like emotional energy or just a lot of energy. I'm not saying that Annabelle the doll behaves the same way as maybe a poltergeist, but there is a lot of, and I think it's still maybe there, and partially it's magnified because of the attention people pay to it. There is residual energy that surrounds this doll. All right, so it was offered as a gift to Annabelle the child during a time of sickness. Like a very, there's something like, it was like a very severe sickness, or like, I'm hearing the word progressive. Here's Annabelle, Page of Cups, little child. This was meant to comfort her during her struggle. And I'm hearing when I saw this card, like she did not recover. She did not get well. Some kind of progressive disease or some progressive sickness. It came on quickly. Or like started maybe to present symptoms slowly, and then by the time they realized something was wrong, boom. Something came on really quickly, just the worst of the disease or the illness. And so this doll was presented to this child to comfort her. I pick up eventually the child passed away. Child's mother, Queen of Wands, Annabelle's mother, decided it is time to give this doll a new home. They didn't want, their hearts were already broken. And there's something about they didn't want to keep the doll. They didn't want to keep the reminder of their child's sickness. This is just what I'm picking up right now. They thought maybe another child struggling would be happier with it. So what else? What else can we know, Spirit? Oh, Aria, thank you for your super chat. I just saw that pop up right now. My chat is running a little bit slow. Either that or I'm just not really checking it enough. But thank you. I really appreciate your help. Okay. So I'm now having this image that Annabelle the doll changed hands. There's something about changing hands a lot. And then ending up in like a thrift store. And then somebody else would buy it. And then they'd get rid of it right away. What else can we know? Let's see if there's any more images. I have a mental image of this doll being in like a thrift store or something, and a little child is like, "Mommy, I want that." But the mom is like, "No, let's get this doll instead." And she doesn't know why she doesn't want her kid to have that Annabelle doll. But there's just, she can't put her finger on why she doesn't like it. And this is before it ends up in the possession of that student nurse. So there is definitely residual energy attached to that doll. Or at least there was by the time that student nurse got it in 1970. Now here's something that I'm just picking up from Spirit. This Annabelle, the child, would hug the doll close when she was sick, when she was scared, when she was sad, all of the above. And during this time of illness, she didn't understand what was happening to her. I pick up like she was little. Maybe no less than 5. But definitely under 10. Like just, I don't know, I'm just getting around like age 5 or 6. And she would hug this doll. and she would be scared. She'd go to sleep with this doll. She'd like grip this doll really tight under her arm. Like I have this image of like a doctor at her bedside, and she's like holding the doll really tight, and that she was kind of holding the doll when she died, and this doll was just a source of comfort, but almost like there was an exchange of energy here. That doll was very comforting to her, but almost like in exchange, she accidentally, I get maybe without knowing it, like transferred all her, like her fear and her pain and stuff, that energy into that doll. And it was magnified by her family's pain and sadness. And then I pick up that this doll just sort of became a sponge for the family's grief. It somehow just kind of absorbed the energy of the family's grief. And I guess nobody really thought to cleanse the doll or bless it or salt it. I don't know. I feel like some of those things, like there is a way to clear that energy. But nowadays, it's like a tourist attraction. This place, it brings in money. There is still some of that original residual energy attached to the doll. But then there's the fear that other people have of it. That just sort of makes it stronger. Makes that energy so much stronger. I think that's why I'm being reminded of a poltergeist. It's almost like people just keep on feeding this energy, or keep on adding, like fueling a fire. Just like one of those last things where I mentioned fueling a fire. And again, I'm hearing this word lucrative. I don't even know what that word means, but I've heard it like twice now during the stream. Like I had said about Busby and that haunted, supposedly roundabout, and all of that residual energy, people fueling the fire, it does attract spirits from a lower astral realm that want to play around and frighten people, and they feed on people's fear, and they feed on people's apprehension, and so it attracts them. I'm seeing the image of moths to a street light turning on, and all these moths just whoosh to the street light. It allows some spirits to like do their work. Okay, lucrative does mean producing money. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. But also lucrative, I mean, to some spirits, money doesn't really matter, but the attention that they will get. Even though it's sort of misdirected, people might think that it's Annabelle or that it's the little child spirit still in the doll. The little child spirit is not still in the doll. The little child like moved on, crossed over. But it's that notoriety now that the doll has. It attracts a lot of, like I said, a lot of tourists. It attracts people's fear. It kind of feeds lower vibrational beings that want to hang around and be noticed and feed on other people's fear. So what about Annabelle the child? What's her spirit? What's she up to? And it's just weird. Like, I know nothing about the doll's history except for like that student nurse got it in the 70s. It was scary, so it got sent to Ed and Lorraine. That's kind of all I know. I didn't know anything about the child who initially had it. All of this is just insight that's coming in now. So what about Annabelle the child? What about her soul? What's she up to? Oh yeah, she's okay. She's okay. There's something about just everything being something about everything being back to like it was. So maybe she's just like maybe her parents have rejoined her in spirit or something now. There's something about like being all together again, back together. I'm hearing this Beatles song, All Together Now, All Together Now. It's from the Yellow Submarine movie. But anyways, maybe that was a song that child knew. Who knows? But there's something about just being all together now, do 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 do, and just being happy. Her soul's happy. This high priestess was just like spirit verifying to me, like, yes, we're sending you these insights. Greeted by loved ones, friends. She got to like grow up in spirit. She's got all these friends now alongside her. So, I mean, she's fine. Now some concluding questions, because Annabelle was the last thing on the list for today. If you guys want another cursed object stream, just give me ideas for more cursed objects, and we can totally do that. But some concluding questions. Why do some objects hold on to residual energy? Whoa. I'm losing cards. Why do some objects hold on to residual energy? Okay, all right. There's this feeling of like saturation, being overloaded with energy. Sometimes it's due to its age. Desert Dawn, you are getting ahead of me here. That is the very last question of the stream. How do we clear residual energy from objects? No, don't worry, don't be sorry. This is a good thing that you guys are wanting to know this. Because, I mean, we get all these videos on like, oh, cursed thing, you know, here's the scary story, but there's never any like optimism afterwards. Like here, if you get a creepy object or an old object or something, here's how you cleanse it. We'll get to that in a minute. So anyways, some objects hold on to residual energy due to their age. Depends on the situation that was going on around it. If it was maybe a calm and peaceful home, I'm seeing the image, Spirit's giving me the example of a vase, okay, an old vase. If it was in a calm and peaceful home and it just grew plants, of course it would have the energy of the plants or the energy of whatever was inside of it. We might not notice its residual energy so much because it's maybe just not that strong. It just was really normal. You know, just like if we have a calm household, that just feels really normal. If that makes sense. And then some energies are frantic and whirlwind. I'm hearing, like a whirlwind of energies. If it was like a household or a situation where people's emotions were high all the time, or it was unpredictable exchanges of energy, like instead of just being surrounded in general, like, yep, happiness, peace, contentment, instead, if it's like bombarded with like, whoa, the energy in this room is tense, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's a fight, there's anger, all of a sudden, oh, there's fear, there's drama, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's 5 minutes of calm. Like, it's going to pick up all of this, and the older an object is, the more energy it seems to collect. Some things have residual energy because they were gifted, and some people just take such pride in a certain object that for some reason that sense of pride or that sense of like ownership or something transferred over onto that object, if that makes any sense. Things that are handled a lot, like keys especially, they're handled a lot. Coins, things that just have really close contact with people and auric fields and stuff like that, those are going to retain a lot of energy as well. Sometimes things like art, things that actually either are used a lot or have some kind of emotional connections to them. People are always going to have an emotional connection to things like art or things like music. So sometimes, like if you were to pick up like a record player, I don't know, from a thrift store, or old CDs or old something, the last owner or owners would have, I'm seeing again like an exchange of energy. So from this object, they receive, either listening to music or painting or looking at art or reading a book, they receive like joy or validation or whatever kind of emotional response. And in return, like that exchange, like their response, sort of, that energy sort of like surrounds or absorbs into the object, if that makes any sense. Why do some spirits stay attached to certain objects? Because sometimes it's just residual energy. Sometimes there might be a spirit who is attached. Sometimes we hear about that. So what's with that? Stay attached to certain objects. It's almost always temporary. I pick up almost always temporary because, okay, what's High Priestess saying? No, it's High Priestess in addition to Six of Pentacles. Because there's something here about, like, they either have like a great sense of pride for the object, or it's something beautiful, or it was something very meaningful. Someone in the comments mentioned jewelry, and that's like alongside things like keys, etc. They're often close to the body, or often always touched. Again, they want to make sure that after death it goes into the right hands, or that it will be taken care of or maintained or something properly. And then once they're like, okay, so this person has it, she's cleaned up let's say it was a ring. It's like, okay, well, my granddaughter has the ring now. She's getting it cleaned. It looks like it's fine. Maybe the attachment was it was a wedding ring. Okay, I'm just glad it's in good hands. I can release that. I can let go now. Some spirits don't have any attachments to any of their belongings when they cross over. They're like, oh, no, bye. But some I pick up, they just want to make sure it goes into the right hands and want to make sure that it's going to be taken care of. And then sometimes there's maybe fear of crossing over and moving on, and they think that if they can stay attached to something, they can stay attached to Earth and their old life and things like that. But eventually everybody does move on, which means, this is why I said almost always temporary. Sometimes the spiritual attachment kind of just goes away on its own as they move on, and sometimes you need a little extra help. Which brings us to our last thing: how to cleanse objects. How to cleanse objects. All right. Perfect example. The other day, we have these like tiny library boxes. They look like birdhouses, but you open it and it's full of books, and it's just, you can just take whatever you want. And if you have books that you want to Goodwill, you just put them in the box. I bought a book. It's very old. It's like a spy book novel. It's called Fear is the Key by Alistair MacLean, and it was published in 1961. This paperback is old. And I love old things. I'm so drawn to some like things from the past. Past life connections are kind of a big deal to me. It's just a path that I go down when it comes to like my work. There's a reason that this is such an interest to me, and like old objects and stuff. Sometimes I just pick up on residual energy, and I picked up that it was an old person who had the book last, and he or she may have passed away. I'm not really sure, but that it was an older person who had the book, and that there's this like, they're cleaning, somebody is like helping them clean out their house, and they found this like crate of books, and they're like, okay, what do we do with these? So there's like Goodwilling them or donating them to the library, and then people read it and then put it back in the little book box. And then I found it. So what I did was, I have these hematite, whatever, magnets. And what I did was I opened the book about, let's pretend this was the booklet. I opened it about halfway like this. And I put one magnet here. Oh, you know what? I put one magnet here on the cover, Let's see if I can get this to work, actually. Oh, yeah, kind of. Can you see what I did here? One magnet on the cover and one magnet in the middle of the book. If it's something thin enough, you can put the magnet one on each cover, but the intention was to draw out the old residual energy, draw out any kind of attachments, anything that this item had. And then when I felt that it was cleansed, I took the magnets. Okay, I often use Reiki to cleanse my crystals. Whoop, cleansed. Magnets are cleansed, book is cleansed. That's one way to do it, is by using crystals. And you can place the crystals just, you know, for example, let's use my book again. You can place the crystal or crystals on top of the item, let it sit overnight or during the day or for however long you feel it needs to be there. That's one thing you can do. Something else you can do is, now this was something growing up, it wasn't all like new objects and stuff in the house, but my mom would tend to pray over certain objects. Or sometimes us kids, we always got like hand-me-down clothes from like cousins and friends and stuff like that. And just to be safe, sometimes my mom would just pray over this bag of clothes and be like, you know what, we ask that, now she prays in her own certain way. The way that I would do it would be something like this. Let's say we have this new object. Let's use my bandsaw box, for example. This is Peter. Aw, thank you, Red Lentil. Thank you so much for your super chat. Oh my goodness, everybody's so helpful today. This is Peter. I made him when I was in grade 10. I was about 15. If I wanted to pray over Peter and cleanse his energy, I would say something like, you can start your prayer however you want, you know, dear God or Heavenly Father or yo dude, however you address the deities that you work with, however you address spirit personally. You know, like, thank you for this thing, for example, thank you for this box, thank you that it came into my possession, or thank you for this gift, or thank you for this, whatever it is, you say thank you for the item. Like, please surround it with love and light. Please remove any and all energy that no longer needs to be there, or please remove all energy that is not mine. Please remove all energy of past owners. Please, you know, there's so many ways to ask for this to be done. Spirit understands your intention. It doesn't matter what words you use. Like, please cleanse its energy. Or like, please reset its energy. Allow this to be a good fit in my home. And then, you know, like, amen, or however you end your prayers or your communications to spirit. Something else some people do. I did this when I got rid of an object. It was a painting. I'm gonna just use myself as examples, Kate, because I only speak for myself the best. But a long time ago, I was in a very toxic, unhealthy situation, abusive situation with a person. This was like 7 years ago. And at one point in that relationship, they gave me a painting. And it was a lovely painting. It was like a bright red poppy and big canvas. It was beautiful. It really was. But I couldn't have any of that stuff around me as I was trying to heal from the PTSD and heal from all of that emotional stuff. I realized that now for some people, it doesn't really make a difference, physical objects or not. They don't seem to be bothered by any residual energies, but I was bothered. And I knew it was too lovely of a painting to throw away. I was not going to give it to anyone in my family because I didn't want to see it again. I didn't want to be reminded. So what I did was I took salt from my cupboard and sprinkled it in my hand and was praying over this painting, like, please remove. I'm like throwing salt at this painting. This was outside, of course, at the Good as New bins. I had my salt with me in like my little, where is it? I have like a literal like jar of salt, and I'd taken it with me, and I was standing at the bin outside with this painting leaned up against the bin. I'm like literally throwing salt at it and being like, Dear God, please remove the energy from this painting so that nobody will pick up on like the residual energy of like the home it was hanging in at the time. Like that the next person who has this painting can enjoy it and it can bring them happiness with no attachments. So that's something you can do to cleanse objects. You can use crystals, you can use sage, I use cinnamon sometimes. If you don't like the smell of sage, you can always substitute. There's always something. You can use salt. And of course, it depends on what the item is. Some things can get wet, some things can't. Like for example, maybe it's toys. Maybe you picked up some a friend, maybe you have little kids and a friend brought over a box of toys because their kids outgrew all the toys or something. And some of those things can actually get wet and get cleaned and get washed. And so something else I do, if there's an item that I have to actually scrub it and wash it, I will at the same time visualize while I'm physically cleaning the dirt off, I'm energetically cleaning it off too. And that when it's all rinsed off and it's all nice and clean, you set it out to dry, I just like to think of that as spirit recharging this energy or just freshening it up, resetting the energy. So that's something else that's worth trying with an old object. So yeah, we got like crystals, we got salt. You can actually clean the object and visualize yourself like cleaning the energy, cleansing the energy of the object. You can pray over objects. You can throw salt at objects. Again, some materials, some stones, some things don't like salt, so you have to use your discretion. But those are the really common ways that I know of cleansing old objects. And so when you go thrifting, maybe that's just something to keep in mind. Or something I do with hand-me-down clothing, because sometimes I get clothing from like a cousin or from friends. Even if I know that they have good energy, right? Even if it's somebody that I know, I will still take the clothes, put them in the laundry, and them being washed in the laundry, I like to symbolize it, or think of it symbolically as cleansing the energy, resetting the energy, making it nice and fresh just for me so that I don't deal with any attachments from previous people who wore the item or had the item. Blissful Divination says, I love thrifting, but the energy of those places, ... Yeah, I agree. Sometimes there's so much residual energy from old objects in a thrift store. It can, for some people, especially those who are sensitive to things like psychometry, feeling energy by holding an object and getting psychic insights and stuff from residual energy of old places and objects, things like that, that can be really overwhelming because not everybody who works at a thrift store knows to cleanse the energy of things like that. A practice of energetically cleaning them before bringing them in is useful to me since I'm so drawn to history and antiques. And that's actually something really good to think about. I like that you do that you cleanse an object before you send it off. And I actually have 2 giant recycling bags full of clothing that I need to Goodwill. And I think that I might do that myself. I'll take my big old selenite wand, rev it up with the Reiki energy and just draw like an energy bubble around it and be like, please remove the energy, any of my residual energy on these clothing. Like, you never know, especially with clothing, like energies of like maybe insecurity. Maybe somebody's getting rid of clothes because they're too small and maybe they gained some weight or they grew or something, and maybe they're feeling insecure about their new body size, right? And I'm gonna be honest, like I know that I look normal, totally fine, right? But sometimes self-esteem doesn't know the difference between looking good and feeling good. And so sometimes, like with my old clothes, like that's a good idea. I got rid of some because they didn't fit around my tummy anymore. They didn't fit around my boobs, or they didn't fit around my shoulders, because I hadn't worn them in like 2 years. And so it would be good to just cleanse the energy of all those clothing so that if I did accidentally leave a residual energy of insecurity or disappointment on anything, that the next owner doesn't have to deal with it. And of course, it's best practice to always wash secondhand clothes and always wash old items or clean it in some way when you bring it into your home. But those are just some of the ways you can energetically cleanse things like that so you don't end up with a cursed object. Or, you know, if you have like a bad feeling about an item and you feel like you really don't want it, don't keep it. Don't feel obligated, even if it's a gift, honestly. Don't feel obligated to keep something that you don't want, you don't need, you're not going to use, or you have a funny, weird, bad feeling about. And that's all I got to say about that, about cursed objects today. So thank you guys so much for watching the stream. Thank you to those who sent super chats, but of course, all types of support, like you guys just watching, commenting, participating. This means so much to me. So if you want me to answer, maybe do another video, just a special video on cleansing items or things like that, you know, just let me know and I'll make a video just on different ways to cleanse items so I can go more in depth on this. If you want another cursed item stream where we talk about different cursed items, let me know and we'll do it. Anyways, please remember to like, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to Sienna Rose Metaphysical if you haven't done so. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I plan on doing a past life reading on Friday. A lot of people have been suggesting Kanye West, so I figure we'll do it. We'll look at Kanye's past life on Friday. I think that's what we're going to do. So I'll see you guys then. All right? All right. Bye.